Hey guys, this is Steve with Orlando Collector Deviants. We are here tonight with the one and only Dan Parent.
Hey everybody.
How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm good. Here in Chicago, getting ready for Wizard World Chicago.
That is awesome. At least it's not too cold there yet.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's like 70 degrees here today. It was nice.
Oh, see, it was only 90 degrees here in Orlando today, so you know.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But we're supposed to get our fall weather starting Sunday for like maybe a week.
Okay, yeah. Our fall here is about 2 months up north. You get about 2 days.
I knew you were in Chicago, so I was paying homage with my hat today.
Nice. Yeah, this is the last Wizard World Chicago show. And then now they get taken over by Fan Expo. So this will be the final. This is the very last Wizard World Chicago.
That's cool. Well, and you have a good relationship with Fan Expo.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I do a lot of their shows. Starting with Toronto, I've always done their Toronto show, which I'll be doing next week actually. But yeah, I have a good relationship with Fan Expo. They're great. They've always treated me really well. So I'm happy to see them taking over Wizard World. I think it'll be a real nice improvement.
Yeah, we're friends with Kevin from Fan Expo, and whenever he's in town, he's always asking, because our daughter, she always volunteers to work at MegaCon. So he's always asking her when MegaCon's going on that if we were showing up or not. So
yeah, that's nice.
Kevin's a really nice guy.
He is. He's great. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he usually gets the guests to get a good group of guests.
Yeah, he's really efficient. He really knows what he's doing. There've been other people that in the old days of Fan Expo that weren't quite as together, and he came in and he took over, and he's with it. That's for sure. So you don't have to worry when you're dealing with Kevin.
Now, Alyssa McLaren says hello.
Hey,
How
Alyssa.
How you doing tonight, Alyssa?
I know Alyssa. Yes.
We'll see. Now she knows us. So
yeah.
Now, how many Wizard Worlds have you gone to? Have you gone to most of them, or?
I think so. I mean, I used to do Wizard World Chicago every year for years. You know, there was a time when that show was like Wizard World Chicago was like the #2 show after San Diego. Yeah, that was like the big show. But yeah, I've done Wizard World Chicago, and I've also done a lot of their other shows like Philly, New Orleans. So I've done a lot of their shows. I just haven't done them for the last couple of years because they've, a lot of more shows have kind of come into the mix, and I've sort of kind of been involved with the newer shows. And then of course, Fan Expo has acquired a lot of shows, as has Reed Pop. So you find the more shows you do, the more it's either a Fan Expo or a Reed Pop show.
Yeah, because we just went to SuperCon, which was one that Reed Pop just took over.
Right.
Down south here in Florida.
Right. I was actually supposed to do that show, and it was a conflict, and I wasn't able to do it. So.
Well, be happy. It wasn't well put together. No. For us who do Reed Pop shows, we're a big fan of Reed Pop shows, and this looked nothing like a Reed Pop show to us. So,
okay.
So I'm hoping next year they get it a little more streamlined, kind of how they do their stuff.
Maybe it's like growing pains, or after then they acquire new shows. It might take a while to sort of get into that groove.
I think they were still just testing the waters this year with being the first show back after all of last year, and like not knowing what's going to happen. So to me, and I think Trish was the same way, it just felt like they were putting on a show as like, don't forget me, we're still here, but didn't put their heart into it.
Right.
So, Mr. Pookie Gall, Daniel, he says, hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
He's been waiting for you to come on the show since for a month, because we told him he had to. He's a big fan of yours, and it's like you have to watch the show.
thank you for joining us.
Yeah, we kind of fan together over you.
Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Now, we'll start off with the Kickstarter that just got funded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now that was a huge success.
Yes, it was, and very happy and relieved because I had faith in it, but you never know how these things are going to go. And so we funded the Kevin Keller Kickstarter, and it was good as we funded it about 10 days ago before it ended. So we had that final 10 days that were funded. So there's the book. Yep. So yeah, our goal was 49.5, which is a big goal to ask for. So we started out with a big funding goal, but again, it's a big book. It's a huge omnibus, and we ended up with 72.7 as our final tally. So that was good. We hit some stretch goals. Got some good add-ons for people. And so it's well funded, and we'll be able to really put the book out with including a new story. Once we hit 60K, that was to fund the new story we're going to do. So that will happen. And it really went well. The Archie fans are really on board. It just was very gratifying to see everyone's support. So I was really, really happy about that. And Archie is too.
Oh yeah, Trish only backs a couple Kickstarters, and I'm going to say it's mostly yours between Die Kitty Die and anything with the Archie.
Okay, that works for me.
She does Gazelles too.
Oh yeah,
Giselle's.
She just wrapped hers up about a month ago. Yeah.
So she doesn't pay attention, but I'll tell her, hey, I got a thing saying that Dan or Giselle or one of you guys have got a Kickstarter. She's like, okay, let's sit down, let's look. So,
yep. Nice.
Yeah,
they're fun. They're exhausting. They're a lot of work, but they are, they really put you in touch with your audience, and it enables your audience to be directly involved in the projects.
Well, Trish, I actually, she was just going to get the book, and I forced her to get a colored sketch. It's like, I tell her that all the time. It's like, go ahead, get the other stuff, because I feel bad because when I back Kickstarters, I always get an original page from the book or something. So it's like, just get a sketch along with it.
Yeah, but the hard part is deciding what to get.
Yeah. As I add on stuff all the time. So by the time that campaign is done, there's a big list of stuff. But I usually do really well with mostly just the original sketches are the things I think I do the most with. Either sketches in the books or people like to have color commissions. Those seem to do the best. So I do a lot of those.
You do some good stuff too on the fly.
Well, I've had practice. I try, but I love it. I love doing it. So it's all good. It doesn't feel like it's work when you like doing it. So.
Oh yeah. Well, I know Trish has got a couple commissions from you at a couple shows.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Always got to visit Dan when we're at a show with him.
Yeah, she hunts for you. When I tell her, yeah, Dan's supposed to be here, that's where she's like, we got to find Dan first.
Well, again, I always appreciate that. That's always nice.
Adam Alamo says, hi, Dan. Love your biggest fan.
I just saw Adam this weekend in New York Comic Con. We hung out and had a lot of fun and took a lot of pictures and went to Dallas Barbecue in Times Square. So yeah, we had a good time.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
It was fun.
And then Eric Linder says Dan definitely dropped some sweet add-ons with the campaign.
Yes, Eric. How you doing?
Oh yeah. I mean, we really I always keep up with the add-ons and looking at everything that comes up, and I try to keep Trish informed because everything goes to my email. So
Well, those are the things that those things keep you moving to the next stretch goal, because the goal is to like hit the next stretch goal. And the best way to hit the next stretch goal is to have either add-ons, or things they can, or commissions or original art auctions, so that people can get you to that next goal.
Oh yeah. And Eric says, very well, Dan. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too, Eric.
Now, I forgot you just came out of New York Comic Con. How was that?
New York Comic Con was great. It was really, really good. It felt like normal almost. It was really weird. It felt, like old times. It was the kind of like the first. Well, I've done a couple of shows this summer and they were good, but this is like the first con I did where it just felt almost like we were almost back to normal. And again, everybody was masked up. Everybody was vaccinated at the show. New York is, but you can do anything you want just as long as you're wearing your mask. And we went out to eat. There's lots of, New York, everything in New York's open again, Broadway and concerts and stuff. So, but the show was great. The show felt really good. It was crowded. I mean, even though supposedly they cut the crowd size in half, but 125,000 people is still a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Their normal is, I think their normal is 250,000. That was their last number. So 125,000 is still a crowd. And Sunday at the convention was super busy in Artist Alley. I would have thought it was just a regular year. I wouldn't have known that it was even a pandemic going on. But was really good. People were really excited. New York pulled it off really well, which bodes well for conventions, because hell, if you can do a convention during a pandemic, you can pretty much do it anytime.
Oh yeah. Well, that's how we felt when we did our first one this year.
Mm-hmm.
We were iffy, and it actually turned out great, and it was like that was a big relief.
From what I understand too, from people I've talked to, there's been very little spread of COVID at any of these shows, because most of them have been pretty careful. Comic fans, we want to have our convention, so people behave themselves, and again, I've heard that there's been very little spread, so that's good. It's good. So now we can go into 2022 feeling a little more, confident, and hopefully things will get even a little bit better, so that we can, be even back to a little bit more normal.
Oh yeah, I know. Because here in Florida, where it's like an epicenter for conventions.
Yeah.
I mean, and they've dropped everything starting pretty much in August. Everything there has been a convention or 3 every weekend,
I know.
Since August.
I know it. I know. Yeah. And then now there's conventions. There's so many because of COVID. They've moved so many conventions to the end of the year. That C2 and Emerald City are happening in December. A lot of the big shows are now in October and November. So there's a couple of shows every weekend, which is why normally I would do Baltimore, which I love, but I'll be doing Toronto, because I love that show too. Normally there wouldn't be a conflict. I would do them both, but unfortunately I had to. I was committed already first to Toronto, but I hate to miss Baltimore. But that's just kind of like where we are right now. Is you have to kind of pick and choose or go with your first commitments, because there's so much.
Oh yeah, and
that's how we feel about C2E2 this year.
Yeah, that's what we felt, because we usually always hit C2E2, and this year with it being in December, it's like we just can't do that.
Yeah, December is tough. I mean, I'm going to be there because I love the show. But in December in Chicago, one snowstorm could do some damage that could really affect the show. So, fingers crossed there won't be any kind of weather issue. But that's why you have to have the normal schedule where you have C2E2 in the spring, because of Chicago. Even New York Comic Con, the first couple of New York Comic Cons were in the winter, and they just switched it to October because we've had blizzards in February many times in New York. So you gotta treat these shows. You have to realize that these shows are regional. We're all in Florida.
Oh yeah. Well, but being here in Florida, you still have to watch out because I've seen the hurricanes shut
Right.
down many conventions.
Yeah,
So
that's true. We had this, you had the we had that hurricane situation like a month ago.
yeah.
Where Indiana and then we then New Jersey and that whole area got hit with all these flooding and stuff that was not predicted. New York City even had a lot of flooding, so you don't know. You never know.
Well, Adam says Baltimore will miss you. We'll have to hang with Pep Boy. Pep Boy.
Oh yeah, Peepoy, Andrew Peepoy.
Peepoy. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, I will miss
Anna
in Baltimore for sure.
Now, we haven't been to Baltimore, but we hear that's a really good convention.
It's excellent. It's an excellent show. It's a comic book show. There's not a lot of celebrity guests. It's really geared towards comic books and art, and that's one of the things about that show that's great. That show and I think Heroes Con are very similar in feel. I think they're privately owned shows. They are very comic book centric. And they don't rely on a lot of guests. They rely on comic book fans, and I think that's the art. I know most artists love those two shows.
Well, I know Baltimore. Lee, who runs our local comic book store, our home store, he loves going up there because he says, just like you, it's like one of the true last comic book conventions.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep.
So.
Yep.
He talks that one up all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna switch gears a little bit, and I was gonna ask you: have you seen this new webtoon about Ethel that's been going on?
I saw the promo for it. I've seen some of the previews for it. When I was on I was an Archie panel at New York Comic Con, and they were showing clips of it. So yeah, it's like an Ethel webtoon where it's like Ethel grown up, and she kind of goes back to Riverdale. And
I just put the link to it over in the comments if anybody wants to go see if they haven't. Now, have you haven't had a chance to look at it or anything?
Of it, yeah, I haven't watched any of the episodes, but I've seen a lot of the clips of it, and I like the idea of it. I like the idea of some Ethel, so I think that's good.
And see, I'm mixed on it because they've just changed how, to me, because I'm old, so I grew up with a Archie in a different time period.
Well, I'm talking about because I like the old Ethel back in the '60s where she was like, I mean, let's just say it, she was like really like ugly. But kind of like horribly ugly. Like she was, I mean, they drew her to be, not attractive, but I always thought that she was cute in a weird way. And I always I like that Ethel. I like that. So I know what you're talking about, but like this is also more of a more based on Riverdale Archie, which is based more on like a realistic version of Archie where they're drawn more realistically. So I think that's the style they're going for in this Ethel show.
I know. I look at it and like I said, it's being old and it's like Ethel was always she may have been not the prettiest and all that, but she loved herself. She was strong-willed and
yeah.
And they didn't make her this way in this, and I was like, I'm still going to continue reading it, but I'm not a big fan of how they portrayed her this time.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out myself.
So I just my daughter actually turned me on to the webtoon of it. So it's like, I want to ask Dan what he thought about it.
Yeah, again, I haven't seen a lot of it. I've seen, like I said, some of it, and I like the art. But again, I know what you're saying because there's a part of me that likes, the old classics Archie, the Big Ethel. But this is again like it's geared towards a Riverdale audience. So it's there's like two ways to look at it. But I'll always love the old Ethel, the one with the buck teeth that chases Jughead around, just because it's funny. Yeah, it's just this the comedy. It was the comedy gold. especially when Sam Schwartz drew it, because Sam Schwartz was such a hilarious artist.
Oh yeah, it's just back then. But that kind of goes into one of my other questions I was going to ask with you. How do you think, like the original Archie stands up to time, like the Archie comics? I know they keep changing it because of Riverdale and all that. What's your opinion of it standing up to the test of time?
Well, I mean, classic Archie holds up beautifully, considering that we're now in our 80th anniversary of Archie, and the classic stuff still sells, even when they, even with the Riverdale stuff, came along. It never could replace the classic stuff. You do bring in, you do attract a new audience with the realistic stuff, with the stuff that's close to the Riverdale brand. But classic Archie is classic. I mean, we see it in sales. We see it in like the sales of the the trade paperbacks of best of stuff and the digests. That stuff is still like the bread and butter of Archie Comics. So now the characters are just timeless. I mean, you can read a Jughead story from 50 years ago and it's funny. And funny is funny. It's like classic TV too. If it's funny, it holds up. An old episode of I Love Lucy is just as funny now as it was 60 years ago. And that's
correct.
That's not to say that you don't you don't want to like enjoy new stuff. Like I love like current stuff that's on TV and on Netflix. I love all the new streaming shows, but there's classic entertainment that just is irreplaceable.
Oh yeah, and Trish will agree with you on that. I will too, but I mean Trish is over here shaking her head up and down. She just refuses to get on camera.
I hear you, Trish.
I am not a camera person.
But
I watch
a lot
of TV and movies too. So I like the old stuff and the new stuff. I think they both blend well together. That's why I like with the classic Archie and Riverdale. I know there's some people who only will like one or the other, but I'm fine with both because I respect and love the classic stuff, and it paves way for the new stuff. And that's sort of the smart business model.
Now, I know hold on. Pookie says, walk into any Publix and there's an Archie digest at every register. Yep.
Yes, sir.
Publix, and I've been seeing them a lot at Walgreens lately. Targets, Walmarts, of course. But yeah, the checkout aisle is where we still sell most of our books at checkout aisles. And, we buck the entire tradition of how comics are sold right now, because most comic books are sold in comic stores and direct market. And, we still are big on the newsstand, which, with aside from a few things like, People Magazine and those kinds of, there's not a lot of big selling things in the newsstand. And we are very strong there. We have a great presence there. So
now, Eric says his daughter Nikki loves all the old back issues, and she reads hundreds of them. She's the next generation. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Pookie,
we see a lot of that. Also see people who buy who watch Riverdale, and then they go back and they read the classic stuff after seeing Riverdale.
Oh yeah, because with Riverdale, to me it brought back an awareness to Archie.
Absolutely, it did. And a lot of kids don't even know it's based on a comic book, but their parents tell them that it is, and then they get interested and they want to go back and they find out. And they usually, when they find out and research the old stuff, they like it. So we see a lot of that.
Well, I'll show you Trish's number one love that I was able to find her.
Oh yes, Life with Archie.
Life with number one.
Yep.
Nice. That one wasn't easy to get a hold of, but
yeah, I've got that somewhere too, somewhere in my basement. Someday I'll find my old stash of comics.
Well, her other thing, because she's trying to collect the whole Life with Archie series, and she has a really good hold on a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
But one of her other favorite Archie Comics to get is the Spiral Christian comics.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Those are something else.
They are definitely different.
They are.
And they're not easy to find.
True. That's true. I remember when I was young getting those, and those have sold so many copies because obviously Christian bookstores would get them, and I know those have been reprinted and reprinted over and over again. There's been so many reprintings of those books.
Right. They're just really cool. I mean, it's
they're
different.
I think they're weird, because like Betty just was talking about the gospel in the middle of lunchtime, but I I don't know. They're just I find them entertaining.
I agree.
Now I'm gonna ask you, why Archie Comics? Why did you go to Archie Comics?
Oh, well, I guess why did they have me? I don't know. Well, I grew up as a big fan of Archie Comics. It was sort of like I started out with Harvey Comics, and then went right into Archie, and then went into superheroes when I was like 8 or 9 years old. So I always bounced between those three. It was DC, Marvel. It was DC, Harvey, and Archie. But the Archie style always. I always came back to it. Whenever I was drawing or doing assignments in school, Dan De Carlo was still always the best comic book artist ever. And then when I went to art school, we had millions of different assignments, and I always the Archie style just was a natural for me. The semi-realistic way that people were drawn, and so it just was a natural fit for whatever reason. And then when Victor Gorelick, who was the editor at the time, came into the Kubert School and was looking at portfolios, I just had a lot of Archie stuff in there. And they obviously saw that I had a fondness for Archie, and that's when they gave me a shot doing it. Now, keep in mind, I had been rejected a couple of times from Archie before that too. And I was in my second year of Kubert School. I went to Archie for an interview, and I just wasn't good enough. They just, they did not accept my work. And I did it again before. I did it once before that too. But by third year of Kubert School, I had gotten good enough to where they took a chance on me and they started letting me do some work. And that was 35 years ago, and I've been there ever since. So it just started out with just doing like one-pagers and gags. And then after I graduated, I was still doing freelance, and then there was an office position. Then they hired me to work in the art department, where I stayed there for 10 years. And they just have kept me busy for all these years. I've never had a reason to go anywhere else. And I have done a lot of freelance for other companies. I've just done stuff for DC and Marvel and Valiant and Dynamite. But Archie has always been like my full-time gig.
Now, Adam wants to know what it was like working with Dan De Carlo.
It was the best. He was my idol, and he was a nice, wonderful person too. I mean, he was very humble, which was amazing, because somebody with his talent, you just think you just kind of hold them in a high regard. But he was just another guy. He was a regular guy. He was a real sweetheart, really easy to work with, and even he would be like amazed when he would get like a lot of notoriety or a lot of attention for his work. He was as amazed as anybody. And I mean, I was always like, how are you amazed? Because your work is like, people hold you in such high regard. But it wasn't until like the 90s when I think he started to get a grasp of like what his art meant to people. Because if you remember, in the 50s and 60s and 70s, they really didn't give credit to the artists in the books. So even though people recognized his work, it was so good, he wasn't known by name really until the 80s, mid 80s. So so by the time he started to get a lot of like attention for his work, you were talking like mid 90s. And then Dan passed away in 2001. So I think if Dan had survived another decade, he would have seen even more accolades and more attention for his work. But I know I'm kind of digressing a little bit. But anyway, working with Dan was everything. And when Dan was starting to slow down a little bit, wanted to kind of retire, even though he never really did, he would lay out stories and I would finish them for him. So we were doing that for a number of years, and that's when my work really improved, because I was drawing over Dan's layouts, and his proportions and drawings were so good that you just learned quickly how to draw and still be loose with your style because you're drawing on his stuff. It was a great training. Not a lot of people have that. A lot of people wouldn't have that opportunity to work with somebody that they admire so much, and it helped my work improve a lot.
Now, Pookie wants to know: is there a character outside the Archie universe you would like to work on?
Oh yeah, there's always characters outside Archie I'd love to work on. I mean, I still love DC stuff. Marvel stuff, more of a DC guy though, but I always wanted to work on like Legion of Superheroes, because that was one of my favorite comics as a kid. So if I could work on any of the Legionnaires or the whole group would be great. I always I like I'm kind of boring. I like the main three characters, like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. So I got to do Batman 66 as we teamed them up with Archie. So that was like a real fun job working on Batman 66. Yeah, there's characters. I would have loved to have done more with Harvey Comics, but Harvey Comics kind of folded in the early 80s before I had started professionally. And even though they've been back sporadically through the years, they've never really achieved their former status in the comic industry. And I did do a Richie Rich story for a reboot of Harvey Comics a couple of years ago, which it was a series that was just to come out. It came out only put out one issue, but I did get to draw Richie Rich professionally, so that was kind of nice. But yeah, Harvey would have been great. I did work for Felix the Cat for many years, doing freelance for them, and I was a big Felix the Cat fan growing up, so that was a lot of fun working on that. So I did enjoy working on Felix. But I'm sure that I'm sure there's other characters that are out there too that I'm just forgetting about. But I'm a big fan of a lot of stuff, so I'm always open to doing other stuff.
Now, tell me if I'm wrong, and I probably am because I usually am. Now, you even worked on like Barbie, right?
Yeah, I worked on Barbie for Marvel Comics when Marvel was putting that book out in the 90s. I worked on it right at the same time as my Amanda Connor was working on it, and Amanda and I are both Kubert graduates. We went to Kubert school at the same time, so she's done pretty well for herself, as we all know. So we were Barbie, and then yeah.
I don't think anybody knows who she is.
I didn't really enjoy working on it, I gotta say. Like, Barbie was just too restrictive. Maybe they would loosen Barbie up a little more now, but like it was just very like there's not a lot you can do with the character of Barbie, at least at that point. So I did find myself not really. I was glad to draw it because Barbie is like an American institution, but it was a little it wasn't wasn't that exciting. But, to be honest, but and I also did like
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, after you work in the Archie character, Betty and Veronica do have personalities, and they have all kinds of great stories you can do. Barbie is just very, very limited in what you can do with Barbie. She wears pretty clothes, and that's about it. And so again, I'm glad I did it, but it wasn't something I would have wanted to do long term. The only thing I did that was worse than Barbie was I worked on Bratz for a while too. And
oh, you poor thing.
That was awful. Yeah, that was
I can imagine.
Yeah, I worked on these Bratz like storybooks. Yeah, you know, it paid well. I'll say that much. But
paycheck is always good.
We wouldn't even let our daughter have Bratz dolls. We let her have Monster High, but not Bratz.
Well, Monster High was cool. I wish now Monster High I would have been right on board with that one. But yeah, Bratz
that would have been awesome.
Yeah, I would have loved Monster High. But yeah, you know, it is what it is. You know, Bratz paid the bills.
And that's in the end, that's kind of all that matters is what keeps the lights on so you can keep drawing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's part of the freelancer's gig. You know, I mean, fortunately, I've always been, you know, pretty much full-time employed by Archie. But you know, when your kids are young and they're, you know, and you're saving money and trying to pay the bills and save money for college, you know, you got to, you know, put money aside. And if Barbie offers you money and they pay double what you're used to making, you take it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Eric has another question. Just building on the earlier question about working with Dan De Carlo.
Mm-hmm.
For example, on the cover of Veronica #1, both of your signatures are there.
Mm-hmm.
What was the split of work, if you recall?
Yeah, I penciled it, which is why it looks so good. Because De Carlo, at the same time, he inked some of my covers, or my earlier covers, which was, you know, obviously he inked my covers because Archie wanted them to look like Dan De Carlo. So he had that, you know, he could take my art and just that little flair of Dan's would just make the art look just that much better. So I certainly wasn't going to argue about having Dan De Carlo ink my covers. I wish he would have inked every cover I ever did.
Now, do you have a lot of those still in your collection, like first runs of all that stuff?
No, I don't keep. I mean, for the comics, you mean, or the original art?
Yeah, no, the comic. Well, even the art, that would be cool. Well, I know a lot of artists keep the art.
I keep nothing of my original art. It's kind of sad. I know my poor kids are not going to get anything, but no, I don't. I sell everything. I mean, I've kept a few pieces of my early art, you know, a few pieces, but no, for the most part, I don't. I do keep all the comics, though. I do keep. I like to have a clear record of every comic that I've done. So I bag and board pretty much every book I've worked on, and I can pretty much find it. I pretty much keep them fairly organized. So I do like to do that. I forget. You know, I forget. You know, when stuff I've worked on, I'll see a digest cover, and it'll take me a while to remember even like that I even drew this cover. But we're talking 35 years now. So I've done, I think, 1,000 covers, 2,000 covers. I counted it once. Then I've done a lot. It's been a lot.
Oh, wow.
I know that someone had told me there's like a list of like one of those database things that keep track of people and how much work they've done. And I think I'm in the top like 50 or 30 of people in comics now, just because I've done so many pages now. So I have to like find this list and see where I rank on there. But yeah, I've done. The volume of work I've done too. But you know, again, I've got 30.
Oh yeah. Well, Eric says thank you. That's super interesting.
Thank you, Eric.
Now, I was wondering because I've talked with you before, and you because I talked to you about you creating Kevin Keller, and then you told me you also created Jelly Bean. Now, I've always kind of sat there and it's like, why didn't I ever ask him this before? Do they let you name the characters, or are those the names already there and you just built the character around the name?
They let me name the characters. We had a different last name for Kevin. It was Kevin. It began with a K. We went with Keller. And then someone at Archie had pointed, like, do you think they'll confuse him with Helen Keller? And I said, I don't think they're going to confuse Kevin Keller with Helen Keller, but that's never happened. But then with Jelly Bean, yeah, I named her Jelly Bean. I don't know why. Well, I mean, the story is well, because Jughead's like a nickname, and I wanted a nickname that began with a J. Jelly Bean just happened because if you follow the story of how Jelly Bean was born, Mrs. Jones and they're rushing her to the hospital to she's in labor, and then they get stuck on the highway because a truck overturns and there's jelly beans all over the road. So they can't make it to the hospital, so she has to deliver the baby in the car. So hence the name Jelly Bean. So that was like my sort of like my sitcom plot sort of storyline. But yeah, that's how Jelly Bean came about. And then and then I've created quite a few characters. I mean, none have been as popular as Kevin, but Jelly Bean has been around for a while, and she's been on Riverdale now. And Ginger Lopez I created, and Harper Lodge, who is Veronica's cousin. She's had some good stories with her, and there's been some characters that I've created who have been long forgotten because sometimes you create characters and for whatever reason they just just kind of fade into obscurity, which is fine. But it's all good.
Adam says, didn't you name Veronica's mother?
I did. Yes. I don't know why I named her Hermione, but I did. I don't know why, but at that point she never had been named. Veronica's mother never really appeared a lot in the comics until like the 80s. I mean, she had appeared sporadically. It was always Mr. Lodge. You always saw Mr. Lodge in the Veronica stories. You very rarely saw Mrs. Lodge in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. She started to pop up in the 80s a little bit more, and then when I did the Veronica book, I put her in there a lot because I just we never really explored Veronica and her mom a lot, so I put her in there. And we realized she never had been named. So I named her. And then
that's kind of a cool thought.
Yeah. Now, Alyssa wants to know, how many stories do you write/draw within a week?
Oh.
And how are the deadlines?
Well, the deadlines are, I'm really behind right now because I had this Kickstarter going on and I've had conventions all month. So I'm really, really behind. So that's why tonight, after we're done, I'll be probably working into the wee hours of the morning, trying to get some pages done. But normally it's weird because I do covers and I write stories and I draw them. So it's really kind of broken up a lot. But I can normally write and draw a story a week. And maybe squeeze in a cover too. I used to be able to do 2 stories a week, which I could do if I was just not going anywhere or not working on Kickstarters. I could probably do 2 stories a week, but writing and drawing a story a week seems to be pretty much around what I can do. So maybe I pencil 30 or 40 pages a month. I think at one time, there was a time where I think I was doing like 60, 70, 80 pages a month at one point. It's when the deadlines get tough, you just crank it out. You just keep drawing.
You never home because of conventions and always drawing. I'm surprised you still have a family.
Me too. I know. Well, thank God my kids are grown because, in fact, I really didn't start doing conventions a lot. I think it's been like 10 years. I think 2010 is when I really started doing a lot of conventions. And that's when, I was able to do it because my kids were like in high school at that point. And my daughter was almost out of the house at that point. So that made it doable. Because before that, we pretty much share the, parenting responsibilities. Like I would watch my kids a lot at home. We would split the time up with the kids. So, when you're there little, you have to. I was doing maybe two or three conventions a year. Now I do, I can do 20 conventions a year now. But but yeah, your hotel room like this becomes your office, and I work on airplanes. If I'm on a 5 or 6 hour flight, I definitely am writing stories on the plane. Flying to Chicago today was only a 2-hour flight, so I just napped because you know, I didn't go to bed last night, so I slept on the plane, and then I took a nap this afternoon. So I'm you know, I'll probably get another nap tonight. You know, I have a very sporadic sleeping patterns, but it works. I listen to my body. Like, my body tells me I'm tired, I sleep. So if it's the middle of the day and I'm exhausted, I just crash and refresh myself and just keep working again. That's the advantage of being freelance, that you know, you're not tied down to a definite schedule.
See, that's where when you go by his table at a convention and you don't see him there, he's actually underneath the table taking a nap.
I'm not above that. I would do that. I'm a person who, listen, I'm very aware of my surroundings, and I never want to endanger anyone else. So if I'm driving and I'm tired, I will pull into a Home Depot parking lot and take a nap, or a Walmart parking lot. I've done it many times. I've done it driving back from the airport to my house, where I'm like 90 minutes to my house. And I've done it where, like, you know, I'm just really tired, and I pull over and I take a 20-minute nap, and I probably have saved my life and someone else's by doing that. So I just it's even though my sleep schedule is erratic, I do make sure I listen to my body when it tells me to get some rest.
I can just imagine pulling into a rest stop and there's Dan sleeping in the car.
Oh yeah,
Dan parent.
I've done the ones where, like, you know, when you're in that deep sleep when you don't know where you are and you wake up, you got drool coming down your mouth. I've done that. I've had those kinds of sleeps before.
Well, I gotta admit, we've had those on some of those 4-day conventions while we're there. We'll go out to the car just to kind of relax and get away from everybody, and next thing you know, it's like a half hour and you're like, oh crap, I fell asleep.
And I do that in the middle of the day too. Like, I just will go away from my drawing table. I'm on the computer. The computer tires me out a lot more than just drawing by hand. So if I'm on the computer coloring or something, I have to just lay down and just take a little bit of a nap. It could be in the middle of the afternoon, and then, like, again, I'll conk out into like this deep sleep. And you wake up and you're like, oh my god, like, what day is it? Where am I? What time is it? Like, you just don't know where you are. That's when you know you've had a really deep sleep.
Those are the best.
Those are good for you. Those are good for you. And yeah, I think a lot of those.
Now, you just said something there, and that's usually a question I always ask my creators that I talk to. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer doing the comics digitally or by hand?
By hand, by far. Yeah. Now I have to do both, because I obviously, when I'm delivering covers, I have to deliver a digital file. And I could draw them on digitally, because I do have a Wacom tablet, and I do color and draw on the Wacom, but I like to have the original art because I like to sell it. I go to conventions and I like to sell original art. So, you know, it makes a big chunk of my income if I can sell the original art. And you know, I can't really sell the digital art. So, but I just like to draw by hand anyway. I just prefer to draw it by hand, ink it by hand. Then I'll scan it to the computer, and then I'll clean it up in Photoshop and then color it. So I'm doing both. I'm doing, you know, work by hand, and I'm doing, you know, doing the digital aspect of it too. And that seems to work for me.
Now, I was going to ask you also about your own comic, Die Kitty Die. Mm-hmm. What inspired you to make Die Kitty Die?
Just the you know, the idea of doing something, you know, that's my own. It's nice to just work on something that you own and you have total control over it. You know, I love Archie, and I do have a lot of control with Archie, but again, I don't own the characters. They're not mine. Die Kitty Die is mine, or I should say it's ours, because I own it with Fernando Ruiz, and it's just a great creative outlet. It was before Die Kitty Die, I had never done a Kickstarter before, so I had some friends, namely Giselle, who we were discussing earlier, who had great success with Kickstarters, and you know, you saw all the freedom that comes with it. You know, also I didn't realize the work that went with it too, but it's another story. But I saw the freedom you get when you're doing a Kickstarter. So it was definitely something that really was appealing to me. And then when we did the first one, it was successful. And then the series was, also it was produced by Chapter House, who put it into stores too. So we were able to have our success on Kickstarter, and then we're able to see the book, be produced in shops and stores. So then we just went back and we did a few more Kitty series after that, Die Kitty Die series. And again, it's just a great way to flex your creative muscles, because everybody needs to you need to flex your creative muscles. And even though I work primarily for Archie and I've enjoyed doing that, it's always good to do other stuff. Like I do enjoy getting other freelance jobs and doing things that are different. It just makes me go, when I get back to doing Archie stuff, enjoy it that much more. So, and Archie's always been really open about me. They don't mind if I do other freelance stuff. They know they've got me pretty much for most of everything, 90% of the time, but they're fine when I get another gig. So.
That's cool.
And with Die Kitty Die, it's your own characters, and it must be nice to have your own character.
Yeah, and the stuff we do in Die Kitty Die, it's a little racier, it's a little more adult, it's more parody. We're parodying a lot of the comic industry, so it's a little more satirical, a little more edgy than what I can do in Archie, as far as satire goes. So it's a little more adult. It's just a little. I mean, it's not I wouldn't say it's racy, but it's definitely racier than what I could do in an Archie book for sure. And it's a tribute to a lot of comics we grew up on. There's a lot of Harvey Comics parody in there, because I always have Harvey Comics on the brain, and so you'll see a lot of Harvey reference in Die Kitty Die, and it's just fun. It's just a fun book. It's just for laughs. We don't try and hit anybody over the head with any sort of message with it. It's just a kind of like a farce, and that's what's fun about it.
Now, do you have another one in the works of Die Kitty Die, another series?
I think so. I mean, we have a rough idea of it, so I think there will be another one. I'm not sure when. Probably next year, maybe mid-year or something, because we just came off the last Kickstarter from last year, and I'm actually still finishing up a few commissions from that campaign. So I like to get one campaign completely taken care of before we start another one. But there'll definitely be more Die Kitty Die for sure.
Oh, come on. You don't want to do one campaign a month like some people do?
No, I do not. I do not want to. But I think we will be doing more Archie stuff since this was successful. So already pitched a couple ideas for some new Archie material that we could do through a Kickstarter. It's pretty fun stuff. But again, that will not even happen until this Kevin book is mailed out and printed. Then we'll focus on another one. I don't want to think about a Kickstarter right now until the new year. I just want to be in non-Kickstarter mode.
Kind of relax a little bit.
Oh yeah, no. You just need to enjoy the rest of the year, because you still got a few more con conventions to go to.
Yeah, I've still got about 4 more shows to do. So I'll be doing Toronto next week, and then I'm doing in early November. I'm going to Belgium.
Ooh, that must be nice.
In Brussels, so that'll be my big international show. And then doing a one-day show in Virginia Comic Con with my friend Brett, who runs his shows. I've been doing a lot of variant covers for Virginia Comic Con, so we're going to be doing some signings of those. And then in December, the 2 shows, Emerald City in Seattle, and then C2E2. And then that will take care of 2021. And then hopefully January will be a convention every month, because January is like my big catch-up month to catch up on commissions, and to I'll probably January will probably be the month I'll be doing. December and January is when I'll probably be doing all of these Kevin Keller commissions from the Kickstarter. So that'll be happening then.
So you got a couple months to decide what you want.
To decide, yeah.
Yes, always time.
Jennifer Looters says, "Hi guys, sorry I'm late." And cool, do you have a link? A link to what, Jennifer? Because his Kickstarter just finished, so there's no link for that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that is now finished. I know people.
You guys officially took the money out of my account today, so yeah, it's finished.
Yeah, those credit cards got charged. They get charged right away. When that's another thing. I sign on for a lot of Kickstarters too, and I always notice that the minute those get funded, they charge those cards. I still got about 20. I think I've got about 25 people whose cards were delinquent or they were outdated. So I have to go back and I have to make sure those people update their cards. Or Kickstarter does that for you, but I have to like kind of nudge them a little bit because we don't want our totals to go down too much. But
no, absolutely not.
Oh, that's a normal thing of a Kickstarter too. Is if you get 500 backers on a pledge on a Kickstarter, there'll always be about 20 or 25 of those backers whose cards are going to be outdated just because that's the way it goes.
Oh yeah, because we have friends who do the Kickstarters, and they even got the ones who pledge and then never respond to anything.
There's backer reports that you have to respond to, and every once in a while, somebody will say to me, "I never got my book from the campaign," and I'll look and I'll say, "Oh yeah, because you didn't send in your backer report. Because your backer report is like your confirmation that you have pledged and got it. So we need the backer report as like the confirmation, basically. Otherwise, we could go back and we can look manually and see it. But when you get the backer report, that goes into your list of like confirmed items that have been purchased. So I always tell people, get your backer reports in because that is our confirmation.
Yeah, I get so many notifications from Kickstarter like a day from everybody, but I kind of just scan through. Okay, update, survey needed. Okay, let me click on that way and hit my surveys and
gotta do those surveys. Yep. And I even forgot to do them a couple myself, and then I contacted them and said, "Oh, where's my book?" And they're like, "You didn't do your survey." So I've even done it myself. So I can't go around preaching too much about it. So when it affects me.
Jennifer, there is the link to Dan's Facebook page, and hopefully that's not his personal one.
Well, my personal I have one Facebook page. It's like a personal and professional. So.
Oh, I was just giving Trish
he
a
likes
hard
to
time.
mess with me.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Okay, so it's been about an hour. I told you we'll keep it short because you got a lot to do, and then you got to try to get some rest before tomorrow because it's a long 3-day weekend. Is there anything you'd like to say before we go?
Well, no, I'm glad we finally did this. It's good to be on live with you guys, and I'm pretty easy to find. I'm on Instagram and on Facebook, and I'm obviously all these conventions. So people, if they have questions for me and want to seek me out, they know where to find me. And yeah, I just want to thank everybody again for the support of the Kickstarter. It was very gratifying, and I really appreciate that. It really means a lot because can't do it without you guys. So very, very
but the one thing I have to say about you, Dan, is you're very connected to your fans, which in turn makes it easier for us
to be fans,
and of course want to back your work.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a give and take. I really appreciate the people who support me, and I know where my I know how I I like doing this for a living, and I've got a lot of support, and I'm thankful, appreciative of that. So, and I like, I like the people who support me. I like the people at conventions who come up to me, and it's like my social life basically is this going to conventions, fans and friends. I don't even like to use the word fans. I just consider you all my friends, and that's it's a good relationship, and I'm so happy to be able to do it, and hopefully I'll keep doing it. Fuck it. So
I just say that because there's a lot of people who are not even at the level you're at, that I guess to say that they're
not as connected with their fans as you are.
Yeah. But I think also too, like, I'm kind of like a fanboy myself. So like, I geek out at the other people who are, like artists and stuff. So I get it. I think of myself as still like a comic book geek and comic book fan. So I'm right there with you.
Okay. Alyssa says, thank you for taking the time to chat with us tonight. And I want to thank you also.
Yes.
It's been great.
Thank you.
I will tell you, I talk about the first time I ever interviewed you a few years ago. And I tell everybody this story because I don't know if you even remember it, where I freak out in the middle of interviewing you and I turn to the camera and say, can you believe I'm interviewing Dan Parent? So
news day.
No, it was one of those that when Trish asked me, you should go interview Dan Parent, I'm like, no, he's too big of a person to even take time to recognize who, And then when you said yes, it was like, wow, So.
Well, I appreciate it. So.
And Daniel /Pookie says, thank you, everyone. And Adam says, Dan's the man. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. Everybody's happy.
Well, have a good night, you guys.
You too. I mean, you'll be busy, but
I won't see you, but hopefully I'll see you at another show in the near future.
Oh yeah, you will. You know that.
I know I will. Of course.
And okay, I'm gonna run the outro, guys. Eric says, "Thank you, Dan. You're the best." You don't have to hang up right away, Dan. And we can, if you hold for a minute, we can talk for a couple seconds.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. And until next week, we are going to have Monster Manor crew here and talk about their podcast and everything cool that's going on with them. So until next week, guys, catch you later.